So on here, the only thing that's going to be new is like the first step. So I'm just practicing that first step with you on 1 through 11 odd, and then I'm going to come around and check your the other column. But watch up here, just like yesterday, the first step is to combine anything on the same side, and then just bring down everything else. Okay? And we're only doing the first step on these few. That's why there's no space there. So you look at all these. You notice how I'm not adding 2x to both sides. I'm not adding 4x. I'm just combining them. So negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6. And you should not worry about arithmetic because you can use a calculator. So if you're not sure if negative 4 minus 2 is negative 6, you're thinking, well, it might be positive 6 or it might be negative 2. Just put in the calculator. That's arithmetic. That's not algebra. So you only really need to know the algebra, which is steps. What do you do first? What do you do second? So as long as you don't add 2x first, you're doing the algebra correctly. You're just combining like terms. Anything on the same side, do that first. Remember, if there's no number there, it's a 1. So this is 2m. And just bring down everything else. And that's the first step for each one of these. And you can see what's left over is just a two-step equation that you can do pretty quickly. Sometimes there's no numbers like this one, so just 11x equals 11, or negative 5n. Now be careful, this number is negative 6, right? Not 6, but negative 6. That subtraction sign counts. So this is 4 minus 11. And I didn't add 5 to both sides, didn't add 6 to both sides. I just took both the variables and combine them together just by subtracting. Negative 6 minus 5 is negative 11. So that's the first step for each one of those. Why don't you guys go ahead and do the second column here. I'll come around and check just to make sure we got that first step down, and then we'll go down further and do some more all the way through. Okay? So just go ahead and do that first column and make sure we got that. So those look pretty good. Let's go ahead and do some problems all the way through now. Alright, so start off the same exact way. Anything that's the same, go ahead and combine. And in this case, the numbers just cancel out. And this time we'll actually solve it all the way through. So we can divide both sides by 3. (15 divided by 3). And just like before, many of you are doing this a lot, which is great, is whether the directions say to check or not, you're doing it. Because your grade is basically based on test quizzes, which you have to do by yourself. And no one can help you or tell you if the answer is right or wrong, only you can do it by yourself. So if you just do this on every single problem and make sure your answer is right, you'll probably pass every single quiz and test we take all year long. The question is, why wouldn't you though? If you're running low on time, that would make sense. But if you have plenty of time, you're not doing checks, you're probably not doing the best job you possibly could. So the only thing getting in the way of you passing math or getting an A in math is really making sure you're doing it correctly as opposed to just writing an answer and moving on. So just keep that in mind. This took a matter, if I was talking, would take a matter of 5 seconds. So 5 seconds per problem and you'll know if you have 100% or not. You can do that basically on every quiz. Right? It's hard to come up with excuses, to keep coming up with excuses on why you're not doing good, because you can check them on. You have a calculator for all the arithmetic. Remember, you're in algebra class, so you just need to know the steps, right, and what you do. But as far as this, like 1 minus 3, that's arithmetic. That's not this class. Algebra is about what steps do you take to get the right answer. So as long as you know you're supposed to combine the variables together, Right? You use a calculator, 1 minus 3, to get negative 2 if you need help. You can totally pass anything. Okay? Same thing here, you have to know what the next step is, which is just adding 2 to both sides. Right? But as far as the arithmetic, 4 plus 2, if you had to, you can put that in a calculator. So the algebra is all you really need to know. It's what do you do first, what do you do second, what do you do third, and make sure you do it the proper way, and make sure you write it all down. And of course, make sure it's right. Just plug it in. So you see how there's 2 variables here? That's why I have a negative 3 here and here for each variable. So negative 3 minus 2 plus 9. And negative 3 minus 2 plus 9 is just 4. So you know it's correct. Same number on both sides. And of course, show the work. Make sure it actually adds up to 4. You're not just saying it equals 4 because you want to be done. It defeats the whole purpose of checking your work. So just go through it and make sure it's right. And that's about it. On the back, there's some review problems. Just a reminder of how to do these. Remember, you don't need to worry about the fractions because that's arithmetic. You just need to know what the steps are. So as long as you know the first step is adding 1 on both sides, and the second step is multiplying by 8 over 1 both sides, and that's all you really need to know, and anything else you could use the calculator if you needed to. This one you don't really need it. 0 times anything is just 0. But just keep that in mind, that's what you're doing. This is like 2 points on the quiz. This is 2 points on the quiz. And I'm meaning you put a +1 here and a +1 here. And you put times 8 here and times 8 over 1 here. And then you got 1 point for the answer. So it's mostly about showing how you get your answer. That's what algebra is. So just keep that in mind. On these, once you get used to them a lot, you get really good at them, you start realizing that there's only one new thing here, and that's combining this and getting negative 2p. But after that, there's a step to add 2. There's a step. Well, let's be, what, 3, 2. There's another step to divide by negative 2 both sides. And there's another step for the answer. So in total, there are 4 steps to this problem. But 2, 3, and 4 are just review. There's nothing new about it. So what we're going to do now for the rest of the week is really try to work every problem so it gets back to something like this that we already know how to solve. Okay. Tomorrow, or soon, we're going to throw in another step that looks something like this with distributive property. So the first step here will be just to multiply. Right? But you can see this is a problem from today. That's what you're doing today. So tomorrow you do one step and you end up with a problem like today, which you already know how to do, which is, okay, combine like terms, which is going to be +1. Keep everything else the same. And then you can solve the rest of it. So there's just going to be one little new step up here tomorrow, and then you're going to have 4 steps that are identical to what you're doing today. So we just add one more step each day. It's not going to get more difficult. They're just a little bit longer. So don't confuse the two with, some equation that's long with something that's difficult. If you're caught up and you're not behind, you're just adding one more thing. It's one thing at a time. Okay, okay, that's about it with that. Just go ahead and work on that.